Hello, everybody. Good evening. It is April 17th, and it is Mama Christine's podcast. So happy to be back. I saw quite a few comments from people from different various places. I'm glad you enjoyed last week's podcast. But it was nice to kind of really formally introduce myself and tell everybody a little bit about who I was and how I got started and where I am today. But today is the first day of really getting into a subject we can talk about. But first things first is I never explained where Mama Christine came from. So I'm going to do that first, and then we'll get into talking about what we're going to talk about. So it's just a funny thing. So I was lucky enough to be a stay-at-home mom for my kids' first almost 5 years. And as they got older, of course, they started having friends, and friends started coming over, and my neighbor had a daughter that was about 3 years younger than my girls. And they always got along very well, and they would play at my house or next door at their house. And she started, when she would come in, she'd be like, "Oh, hi, Mama Christine." Because I was never one for very formal names. I know growing up as a kid, it was "Oh, Mrs. Smith, it was nice to see you," or "Thank you for letting me come over," or Mr. or whatever. And I've just never been that kind of person. I'm like, "My name's Christine, just call me Christine, it's fine." And so she just started calling me Mama Christine because she's like, "You're like a mom." She said, "You always make me feel better." So she called me Mama Christine. And then the next set of kids were coming in from middle school, high school, and it just took off, and everybody was like, "Oh, Mama Christine, hi, what's going on?" And, to me, it was like all my kids. So when people say how many kids you have, technically 3, not really, I have 4. My stepdaughter to me is like my daughter. I love her very much, and we're still very, very close. And but other than that, I probably have about 10 other kids that are not mine, but they act like mine. And but so it's just great to see that when you have young people who look up to you and think of you in that way. So that's where Mama Christine came from. So when I was trying to think of a name for my podcast, it just popped into my head one day, and it was like Mama Christine's podcast. And I went, okay. Because again, even though I don't consider all of you who listen my kids, but it's kind of always been, in a sense, the people who follow me, the people who look up to me or are grateful for something I might say, a message I might give on a daily basis, something that helps you, So, I look at it that way. So I'm kind of like the mom of spirituality and positivity, right? So I'll just go with that. So let's start our time with a card, just like we did last week. And then we'll get into what we're going to talk about. So let's go. Oh, the cards jumping everywhere here. So rule of thumb, if you have your own set of cards, no matter what kind of cards they are, if cards jump out while you're shuffling and fall out of the deck, always look at that card because it's definitely a message. Okay, here we go. At the deck, cut. There we go. Aha, victim. So this is interesting because it kind of goes with what I was going to talk about. So first things first, it's green, which is your heart chakra. The victim is your ego. That's how this card works, okay? It could mean a few different things. Right now I'm going with heart and ego because that's the first thing that popped in. So usually when somebody gets this card in a reading, it basically means stop being the victim to your ego. Listen to your heart because it knows the truth. And that is absolute truth right there, okay? So I always think of it this way. How many times have you wanted to do something or you have felt like this feels right to me, okay? So this is you, the cute little squirrel, right? I want the nut. I really want this nut. I want it. I know I can attain it. I know I'm worthy of it. But then the ego, the dragon, right, steps in and goes, "Are you sure? You're not worthy enough for that. What makes me think I can do this? What makes me think I should be able to get that acorn? What possesses me to think that any of this is possible? I'm not good enough to receive something like that." See where that goes? You're making yourself a victim. We start to play the shoulda, woulda, coulda game. And There is no shoulda, woulda, or coulda, okay? Stop being the victim of your ego. Tell your ego to shut up, okay? Because like I tell many people, we want to do things in life, no matter what it may be. Whether it's maybe ask someone out on a date. Maybe it's going out to eat by yourself. Maybe it's trying something new. Maybe it's going on a trip alone. Or maybe going on a trip with friends. Maybe it's like leaving your job that you can't stand and moving on to something better. You know, maybe it's making new friends. Maybe, I know the list is enormous, okay? And sometimes things work and sometimes they don't. And what happens is, usually when it doesn't, it's because we're listening to our ego. We're not listening to our heart, okay? And then what happens is, even if we want to listen to our heart, this happens, the facade. What is a facade, right? Something fake, right? What you see. Are you afraid of what everybody might say when they see what you're doing? Yellow, solar plexus, personal power, confidence, self-esteem. So when you're not in your confidence and self-esteem, you got the facade going on. I'm going to do this, but not show anybody I'm doing it, right? So listen to your heart, not your head, okay? If something pops into your head, like out of nowhere, like, I should do that, right? Just out of nowhere, here it comes, that fast. It's instantaneous. That is the universe. That is God. That is your angels, your guides, your loved ones on the other side, whoever you connect with. That's how they talk to us. Quick, instantaneous message. You should do this. Then what happens is you go, that's interesting. I should do that. Then all of a sudden you allow this feeling of like, wow, this feels good to me. I want to do it. You allow it to get up here. And that's where it says, you can't do that. You're not good enough for that. You're not smart enough. You are not rich enough. You're not pretty enough. You're not. So to be honest with you, and I always try to do my best to be honest because, again, my podcast is living life through experience. And in my experience, living life, you would never catch me in front of the camera like you do now. I would be the one who said, let me take the pictures. Because I never thought I was pretty enough to be in photos. And any photos I were in, I criticized all the time. And, I look back now today and I go, wow, what was wrong with me? There was nothing wrong with me then, but yeah, I thought there was. So I was always the one behind the camera. And up until just after COVID, it was like I kept getting this voice, like, make a video. You should do a daily video. And then a friend was telling me, you should do a daily video. It helps. You could do things with it. You can promote your stuff. You can do this. You can do that. But I felt like my voice needed to be used more so in the sense of helping other people. So yes, this is Sisters of Solace. And yes, we do massage. And yes, we do Reiki. And yes, we do many different things. But it was like, I could just post about that. But if it's something huge, maybe. But I felt the need to, like, every day, you know what? I'm just going to pick a card and give a message. And hopefully it reaches somebody. And from that time until now, Sisters of Solace's page has grown from, I don't know, maybe almost 10,000 people, maybe, around COVID time, to like 52,000 follow us now. And it's like, oh my God. And it's from mostly from the messages. So the videos are getting around, the positive photos that I post, the postings that are all uplifting and positive and was motivational, okay? Self-worth, self-care, self-love, all of that. So between those and the videos, that's what made our page huge. I mean, we do quite well business-wise, doing services. But I felt the need that I needed to get out there. So creating those first few videos was scary. I'm like, that little voice was like, who cares? Really, who cares? Just do it. Just do it. Doesn't matter. Nobody's going to care what you look like. Nobody's going to care. They're only going to care about what you're saying. And if you can help one person, that means you've made a difference. So that's what I started doing. And therefore, here we are. Now I'm doing full-blown podcasts, and it's fun. And I don't care, because it's not about who I am or what I look like or, how much money I have or, how many things I have. And I can tell you, I don't have a lot of things. I don't want a lot of things. I'm not one of those people. I'm like, if I can throw it away, it's gone. I don't hoard anything, nothing. Ask my sister, I'm cleaning the house all the time. So that's the reason why we do the things we do. So yes, listen to your heart, not your head. Because if I had listened to my head, I probably wouldn't be right here, right now, with all of you. I would still be just probably sitting around watching television, waiting for the next day to come. Who knows? You never know where you end up. So anyway, what are we going to talk about today? Okay, now that I've taken like the first 11 minutes to talk about Mama Christine and where she came from and taking a card and pulling it out and seeing what the messages are. But you know what? I think the messages are important because, maybe the card message will mean something for you and maybe my talk will mean something for you. Does it matter? No. It's all in what you get from it, and that's what matters. So here we are. Okay, so as we move along, so today's talk is about, and this has been coming up quite a bit lately, making mistakes. And Lord knows we've all made them. I have, you have, everybody has. And one thing I always tell my clients is you got to think about this. Mistakes are supposed to be made. Never, ever regret anything you've done. So some people might go, what do you mean don't regret it? Of course you're going to regret it if you don't do something. But you know what? It's not really a regret. It's a lesson. And that is the absolute truth. So, for example, growing up, I think I had mentioned, there was always this, I loved my mother to death, but there was one part of her that I didn't like. And because of that, it taught me how not to be in this one aspect of life. And I'm very happy I could move away from that. It was a pattern that had come down from probably her and probably her mother and maybe her mother before, I don't know. And I said I was not going to be like that, And even as far as my mom as a person, I loved her to death, but a lot of her thought processes were way different than mine. And I'm like, I was more of the nurturing, loving, caring, kind of give me a hug kind of person, where she was very matter of fact sometimes, and sometimes just cranky and angry. And I just called it, I always called my mom the stubborn Italian woman. But she was, she definitely was. And, she, if something was going on, she's like, well, you're just going to have to get past it, and that's the end of it. And I'm like, oh, okay. And not knowing how to get past it, and she would never tell me how, you know what I mean? I just kind of would either cry it out in my room or whatever until I did get over it, But again, there was no lovey-dovey mom-daughter compassion, So those are some of the things I vowed that I would not do. So I had promised myself when it came to that part, I told my kids from the day they were born, every single day without fail, I love you. And we always hug, we get a little kiss, we share time together, we share stories together. They can tell me anything. And when I say anything, I mean anything. But you know what? I'm glad they can talk to me about anything because, sometimes you just need to talk to somebody about something. And, I'm that person for them. So no matter what it is, even as a parent, sometimes you don't want to hear these things and you're like, oh, okay. But you know what? It's fine. It's fine. It really is. And I think for me, it's just part of the older generation where a lot of things are kept hush-hush and quiet and you don't talk about these things. But I'm like, no, I'm not going to be that person either. I want to be there for them no matter what it is that they want to talk about. So that's what that's been. But yeah, have I made mistakes? Oh yeah, definitely made mistakes. Even with my kids, love them to death. Every day, love you, love you, love you. What do you need? Is your homework done? Can I help you? How's college going? How's life going? But there's been times where I have opened my mouth, inserted foot, and it did not go over well. And I was the first one to step up and say, I'm sorry. How hard is that? I made a mistake. And by owning up to it, made myself accountable for it, and then apologized for it, helped me to learn a lesson. That I need to learn to control myself, I guess you could say. Are we allowed to get mad? Of course we are. Are we allowed to be mean? No. We can be angry, but we do not have to be mean. And that's what I did. I was mean to one of my kids. And, I don't want to say this is a fluffy mom or helicopter mom, because that's not who I am. I am very much for my kids to go off and do your own thing and figure it out. If you need me, I'm here, kind of thing. But, having an adult conversation with somebody, and I'm still mom, and I let it get to me, and, and whatever, and I kind of snapped back in a rude way, and it was not fair. And I probably said it in a way that was not nice. But yeah, accountability is everything. Especially even with your kids. I know older generations, it's like, you do as I do as I say, not as I do, kind of thing. And it's like, no. If you want to lead, you lead by example. I've always believed that. So did I grow up doing much different for myself and doing different for my kids? Oh, heck yeah. Do I still love my mom to death? Of course I do. It's just who she was and where she came from and how she did things. Doesn't mean I have to do the same thing. Now, of course, a lot of people will follow directly through those patterns from their parents or whoever raised them and whatnot, and keep going along with it, thinking that, no, it has to be this way because this is what they taught me. And sometimes people have trouble deciphering between what's right and what's wrong, or what's loving and what's not. And when I say loving, I mean, you can be stern with somebody in a loving way. You don't have to be mean. You don't have to be judgmental. You don't have to call them names. But you can put your point across very easily without being mean. And sometimes people just don't do that. So think about that. The next time something comes up with somebody and you're almost tempted to say, do that again and you fill in the blank, whatever it might be. And realize that, wow, that's my own personal anger coming up. It's got nothing to do with who I'm talking to. It's my own personal anger. And I know that, and that's why I said I took accountability for that. I owned up to it, and then I confessed that I screwed up, and I apologized. So that's what you need to learn how to do. I think everybody needs to learn how to do that. Is it easy? No. Is it a mistake? Yeah. But you know what? Lesson learned. Unfortunately, again, some people don't do that. And some people will do that over and over and over and again. And it's, they say something mean, you get upset. They say, I'm sorry. You say, okay. And things are okay for a little bit. And then it happens again. And you get upset and they go, I'm sorry. And you say, okay. And so that pattern is affecting you as well. So this is where you have to decide, like, okay, is it a mistake sticking around with this person? Am I learning anything from this? And if so, what is it? So you may be learning, like, maybe this isn't the place for me. Maybe time with this person is done. Maybe it's time to move on. Because maybe I got to stop thinking I can fix that person. Maybe I have to stop thinking that they're going to change just because they upset me. And they know they upset me. No, because if the same thing has been happening continuously, no matter how much you get upset and express yourself, it's probably not going to change. Is change easy? Of course not. It all takes time. It takes effort to change. But the person has to make some kind of attempt at showing they're trying to change. That's the difference. And a lot of times they just don't. They just keep repeating the same old pattern. So think about that. Do you want their pattern to be your pattern? Or is it time to move on? So now if you decide, like, you know what? I think it's time to move on. This is not suiting me anymore. Well, then guess what? Lesson learned. Do you regret going with that person and being with that person? No, you should not. You know why? Because they just taught you something. Think about that. They just taught you something. Never regret any situation you're in, because every situation is either going to help you, hurt you, heal you, help you to grow, help you to move forward, whatever it may be. And all of it is necessary in order for anyone to grow as a person, as a soul, as a spirit, as anything. So, like I mentioned last week when I was doing my introduction, I've been married twice. And the first time I got married, I was married young, but I was in it for the long haul. I know what it was all about. I mean, I wasn't just doing because, oh my God, this guy's great. I was actually, I love this person to death. I wanted to get married. I was in it until death do us part, the whole 9 years. And then things started shifting, and it started becoming quite selfish at times. And he was using money that was meant to be for the house, and, doing different things, and just, to the point where I knew this was going on, but again, I didn't want to accept that. And I thought, well, maybe, he'll get better. Maybe he'll change. Maybe this, maybe that, maybe. And it wasn't until I really wasn't doing anything about it that the universe stepped in and said, well, if she's not going to listen and do something about it, we're going to make something happen. And they did. And he cheated on me. And I was very upset. And again, because I was so, well, I'm not going to say Catholic, because I was raised Catholic, but by that time I really wasn't going to church or anything. I was moving away from it. And I figured at that time, I'm like, you know what? Got married in the church. Marriage is forever. I still had that thought process. And I'm like, we're going to fix this. We're going to make this work. And he was like, no. And I was like, no. What do you mean no? But I'm willing to work on this with you. No, I don't love you anymore. And I was like, wow. So no matter what I did, he didn't want any part of it. Which I'm glad he said those things, because when he left the house, besides crying my eyes out for a long time, I had time to sit and think, and when you have that time to sit and think, you really start to realize what is transpiring and what's already transpired that you should have stopped a long time ago. So I was like, wow, no, you know what? No. Life isn't about sticking with somebody until death do you part when you're treated like garbage. Life is about fix it, change it, or let it go. And if he's not willing to work with me, what am I supposed to do? Can't fix it. He doesn't want to change it, so I guess I'm going to let it go. Because you know what? Amongst all this mess and craziness, I've actually lost who I was. I was a very strong, independent person, and I let that go. And I started making excuses for his behavior. When we ran out of money, I said, well, things have just been tough. We had some things to pay for, blah, blah, blah. Where is he? Oh, he's at the races again. Oh, again? I thought you guys didn't have any money. Oh, well, he did a little side job to make some extra money. Well, if I had to work a second job, my money would be going into the house to pay the bills so we can keep the lights on. It wouldn't be spending it on stuff. I know everybody wants to have fun once in a while, but it's like, I wouldn't be wasting, now I'm not going to say waste, I wouldn't be spending my money on special privileges when the lights are about to be shut off. You know what I mean? So it was like, no, it's all him. And I said, it's not fair. I remember one time struggling to get enough money to get to buy groceries. And I'm like, oh my God, the electric bill's coming in. I said, I don't think there's enough for that. He's like, well, I guess you'll have to figure it out. As he pulled a wad of cash out of a drawer. And I was like, where did that come from? Oh, this is money I made on the side, doing some, helping some people. So this is mine. I said, oh, okay. And in all honesty, when I got married, everything was shared. We put all the money together. He let me take care of it, and I made sure all the bills were paid. But then he started going in and, taking money, and therefore there was not enough money. So, lesson learned, because I was never that type of person. So why, again, I guess just the mindset of you're with somebody, you stick with somebody. And I'm like, yeah, no, not anymore. Do I regret it? No, because it taught me something. It really did. Never give up who I am for anybody else. That's truly what it is. I got married a second time. Great person in the beginning, then started to shift about 5-6 years in. Had my kids. A few years later, it fell apart, which I had a feeling it was going in that direction anyway. Do I regret it? Not at all. Why? Because the lessons I learned in the first one, I got to apply in the second one. And I learned some other things on top of that. And I got 3 amazing children out of it. So, you know what? There's a reason for everything. If I made other mistakes in life, of course I have. Have I done stupid shit? Of course I have. Hasn't everybody? But you know what? Again, if you did something stupid and you got caught or whatever it was, or, your parents found out or anybody found out and whatever, you deal with it. You do what you got to do, right? Do you keep finding like the same people? Of course, we've been talking relationship-wise. Do you still find the same people over and over again? Are you stuck in a pattern? Why do I keep attracting the same type of person, right? What is wrong with me? Well, you got to learn that you are worth more than what you think you are. So if you think you're only worth, I don't know, let's say a 20-year-old used car, then you're never going to drive a brand new one. Okay? So same thing with people. If you think you're only worth somebody who's, just a regular Joe and not, some high-end kind of person, and I don't mean attitude-wise, I just, for whatever it means, okay? Maybe more finance, more emotion, more whatever, okay? Again, you're always worth whatever you feel. So again, if you don't think you're worth anything more than a used car, then that's all you're ever going to get. You are worth so much more, and I still to this day occasionally will catch myself. And I think that's just the only difference between you and me is, and depending of course on how much you've been working on yourself, is how these things relate to you and how they affect you. So like I said last week, I've been alone for 11 years. I've dated a couple of different people. Didn't work out. It's fine. But I think about it sometimes and I'm like, why haven't I met anybody? Am I getting too old? And I never say I'm old. You know what I mean? So I know it's just my ego sticking in and it's like, wait a minute. And, the more I think about it, it's just kind of one of these things where I'm like, okay, yes, I'm getting older. Yes, I don't look like I did 20 years ago. Okay. I'm a little heavier. Maybe a little gravity has set in, of course, it is what it is. But I think about it like, well, who's going to be attracted to me? And I'm like, of course somebody would. And then I have to remind myself, I was like, wait a minute, where are you going with all of this? That's not who you are. People will love you for who you are, whether it's a companion or a friend or an acquaintance or whatever. They love you for who you are as you are. And we have to remember those things, but again, that's the ego popping in going, right? So anyway, back to the mistakes. One of the mistakes we make is thinking we're not worthy enough or not good enough or not whatever, okay? Again, you are who you are, and everything you have been through, good, bad, or otherwise, is supposed to happen. So if you've been in bad relationships, if you've been in repetitive patterns, then think about that. What am I doing that's creating this pattern? Is it something about me? More than likely, it usually is. It's the way we think. It's the way we feel. So again, if you only think you're worth this, you're going to get that. If you think you're worth this, you're going to get that. So, just go with the flow of it. I always say we're human beings. No, we're spiritual beings living a human existence. So we're here on this earth. And part of what we're here for is to learn lessons. And which means if you're going to learn a lesson, it means you're going to mess up. It means you're going to make a mistake. It means things are going to happen. But think about it. Life is like school. Now, when you go to school, you learn addition, subtraction, right? Multiplication, division, so on and so forth. Now, of course, you take tests. You always get 100%? No. unless you're exceptionally smart, but for the sake of the story, okay, we're not always right. So what happens is you take a test, and if you don't pass the test, many times the teacher will say, hey, like, everybody got a bad grade, we're going to take the test again. And then sometimes we just keep going until we get it right. So even if it's just in the practicing aspect of things, you just keep practicing and practicing and practicing until you get it right. But that's part of life. It's to make mistakes, because what happens from mistakes? You learn. You learn lessons. You learn from experience. You learn so much. Okay? So if you're in a relationship that's falling apart, it seems like, here we go again, right? Think about that. Do you have enough love and respect for yourself to know that somebody is not good enough for you? You should. You should. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean energetically speaking. You want somebody who is kind of on the same wavelength as you. You know what I mean? Somebody who has the same thought process, not exactly, but the same thought process, emotionally attentive, compassionate, depending on what you like to do in life. You want somebody who's going to match that. Okay. And again, not verbatim on any means, because, you may meet somebody who plays golf, and you're like, oh, I don't know about that. Just, oh, come on, for fun, just come try it. And then you might realize, oh, I like that. And then maybe there's something else that you do that he's never tried, and then he may like it. And if he doesn't, that's okay. Because I always say, in a relationship, no matter who it is, I have my things, you have your things, we have our things. You know what I mean? Because not everybody's going to like every single thing. But you do have to still enjoy the things you enjoy, and not let those things go because the other person doesn't like it. Okay? So same thing. So jobs, friendships, I don't care what it is. If you had done things and you've made a mistake, learn your lessons. That's what it's all about. We have to learn lessons. And it's for the experience of our soul. And it goes, that conversation can go very deep, because it's like, well, why does our soul need to learn if everything is so perfect on the other side? And it's like, that part I don't know, because I don't remember being on the other side. I know it came from there, but once we come here, we forget everything. So I don't know why we have to keep learning, but we do. So it is what it is. But yes, so, if you've made mistakes, it's all right. If your mistakes have been very bad, then you know what? Own up to it. Do what you got to do. Apologize. Fix it. Prove that you can be trustworthy. Prove that you can take care of what you need to take care of. Whatever it may be. So just do what you got to do, Other than that, I mean, I would say that as we grow as a person, and we've gone through a lot of mistakes, you start to notice you make a lot less. Okay? Which, that's a blessing in itself. But I know they say as you get older, you get wiser. But I'm really starting to think that I don't think it's because we get older. I think it's just because we get more experienced. And everybody's experience will come at a specific age. I mean, you don't have to wait until you're 70 to say, oh, now I'm older and wiser. I mean, you can be older and wiser at any age. But it's, again, where you are as a person, where you are as a spirit, and where you are in life. So, I mean, I look and I say to myself sometimes, it's like, I really wonder, like, what it would have been like if I know now, what I know now I could have done when I was much younger. But then at the same time, it's kind of like, well, I don't think things would have been the same, because think about it. I mean, I wouldn't have gone through all those mistakes. I wouldn't have learned. I wouldn't have broken patterns. I wouldn't have progressed. And again, we live life through experience. So how would I be able to work with my clients do my coaching, do my readings, do my videos, if I hadn't learned everything that I've learned, right? So think about that. Think about that. Making mistakes kind of sucks. It really does. But you know what? It's just part of the lesson. Just part of the lesson. And we get over it. We do get over it. We learn from it, which helps us to get over it, okay? By all means, don't just get over it. But yeah, so think about that this week. What things have I been through that have truly made me think, truly helped me to realize who I am, truly helped me to heal, to let go, to move forward? I mean, it's crazy once you sit back and go, wow, the things I've been through. Now, mind you, I mean, if you're, 16 or 20 years old, I can imagine you probably haven't been through much. I could be wrong. I mean, depends. Your life could have started off really tough from day one. Who knows? I don't know. But it's kind of like, I'll have people come in and we'll be talking, and I could be doing a reading with them, and they'll talk about how something is so hard right now. And I go, yeah, right now, in this moment, what you're going through is not easy. But now go back and think of how many things you have been through. And guess what? You're still here. And you've made it through every single one of those things until this thing, which you will also get through. We always seem to forget that part. Every situation we go through is not always a pattern. It could be new lessons, new things, of course. And that's what we have to remember. So when something new comes up and like, oh my God, what happened? I don't believe this is going on. What am I supposed to do? Blah, 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 blah. Just breathe and deal with it. That's all we can do. No, it's not easy right away to let go of the worry and the fear and the doubts of everything going on in the moment, but you learn to get there. I've learned to get there. And I've had some things happen in the past few years that have been just like, what? Are you kidding me? And people be screaming at me going, why aren't you mad? I said, I'm upset. No, you should be mad. Look, getting mad doesn't change what's happening. Am I upset that it's happening? Yes, because it's unnecessary and it's stupid. So that's all I can do. And then all I can do is put my trust and belief that everything will work out fine. And it usually does. Again, to sit there and just continuously, oh my God, over and over and over going, anger. Oh, let it go. Let it go. Where is life taking you if you spend all your time playing that movie over and over and over and over again? So take what you've learned, take what you've been through. Remember, you've been through so much already. Like myself, I'm 57, going to be 58 this year. And it's like, how many things have I been through? Wow, I've been through stuff. Haven't we all? But have I learned? Yes. Have I moved forward? Oh, yes. Will I go back and do the same thing over again? Of course not. I don't want to. I like where my life is now. I'm in a place where I'm very positive. I'm uplifting. I mean, I uplift myself too. I have to. That's if I want myself to keep going, I have to uplift myself. So tell yourself what a great person you are. Tell yourself you're going to get through this. Tell yourself, I have confidence. I trust and believe I'm going to get through this. That's all it takes. And the more you keep saying those things, the more you're going to reprogram yourself to believe that you're going to get there. So that's what you got to remember. So I am going to bring this to an end. That's all about making mistakes. Never regret your mistakes. Your mistakes are lessons. Take the lessons and learn, right? So let's end this with another card. Same thing, chakras right in the middle. There we go. That's funny. Wisdom. How can it? Oh, gotta love it. We go from victim to wisdom. So there you are. Green, heart chakra, right? Truth. Truth sits in your heart. When you're in your heart, you have the wisdom. Because your heart always knows, right? So again, don't be the victim. Listen to your wisdom. Listen to your intuition. Listen, your heart knows everything. And anything that comes up that sounds negative is your ego. Tell it to shut up, get out, go away, lock it in a closet. I don't care what you got to do with it, but let it go. So, truth, false, right? Positive, negative. And you'll know the difference because it'll sound very negative. It'll sound like you're knocking yourself down all the time. And that's your ego. And besides, the divine would never say negative things to you, ever. Okay? So remember that. So guys, thank you so much again. It has been a great second week in, and I look forward to seeing you next Thursday. So until then, Mama Christine says goodbye and have a great night.